Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
What about the IDA? All right, we're convening now the IDA meeting. Welcome everybody. Thank you for coming and for your interest in what is going on in our county. We've already called the order and we've already had the prayer. Let's go to the approval of the minutes from last board meeting.
We could have another prayer.
Yeah, we could use another prayer, but I think the first one covered it. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from last time? You should have all got them prior to today. And if you did not, you need to let somebody know because they're electronically sent so that you might see them. Do I hear a motion?
Move to accept.
Motion's made second to accept the minutes as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll move into Rapid Systems right here. And then at that point, we will move, where have we inserted the PFM?
PFM is, it's on the agenda.
Oh, it's down here, 10:35, I'm sorry, okay. Well, we do have some comments there.
The timing will be off because of Rapids. We'll just have to disregard the times, but we'll follow the same sequence.
Okay, Rapid Systems, it's all yours.
Good morning.
Morning.
Doug Knight with Rapid Systems. This lovely lady is Denise Hamilton. She is the CFO of our company. Primarily today, our focus is on the closeout of the grant between Rapid Systems and Hardee County IDA. You'll see I have up the letter that we sent to Mr. Lambert on November 28th. And the majority of the rest of the presentation will be focusing on specific things in the agreement and our response to those.
Did we get a copy of that letter? Or do you just acknowledge sending it concerning the closeout?
I didn't send you the letter because I wasn't sure the presentation was the same as the letter. The first letter was just a letter from Dustin and Denise to me, and I did not forward that.
Sorry, go ahead.
So for those of you that don't know, this grant, it's about a public-private partnership. The IDA, through the EDA, provided $2 million. And then Rapid Systems had a matching investment of at least $2 million. So per section 6.5, once we notify that we're prepared to do the closeout, we have a 90-day time period in order to make that official. And so there are 3 things that we need to do, which is what today is about. Comparison of the actual accomplishments to what was intended, a description of any problems or delays, and of course how funds were spent. One of our requirements was to provide ubiquitous coverage. We have done that, and I'll show you some slides that depict that. That is a heat map for the entire Hardee County boundary. You'll see the colors go from in this particular slide, they're like a yellow, and then the outer edges fade to kind of a blue, but there is still coverage not only in Hardee County, but the network actually from this infrastructure extends into the neighboring counties as well. Our service priorities. Of course, one of the purposes of this was to provide service to households with children, make broadband services affordable, and serve the needs of public safety and emergency response. Give you some examples of how we prioritize services to school-age children. If we ever were notified through the quoting process, through the sales process, that we had a child that or college student or whatever that had online courses. I think in every case but one, we did it within 24 hours. And that one case, we ended up working on a Saturday to make sure they had service. We provide internet services to all the municipalities in Hardy County. We provide it to Hardy County BOCC. Just so you kind of understand what the BOCC does is they take our shot, comes in on the EOC over here, and then they distribute our signal wirelessly via fiber and via Cat5 to basically all the departments the county has throughout the county. We provide service to the Sheriff's Department, and they also have 9 IP cameras. We provide the bandwidth for those cameras. Some other things that we've done that's tied to this network or the staff of this network during the presidential election, or presidential candidate Mitt Romney at a town meeting in Central Florida. We provided the Wi-Fi for that. If any of you guys or ladies in here watched the World Series this year, that slow-mo film that they were showing, that was utilizing some of our equipment. We provide service to the Tampa International Airport, Executive Airport, stimulus project for Highlands County. It started off as Versipia. It's now BP. We provide the bandwidth and some Wi-Fi services for them. We've done the 12 hours of Sebring, and we also do some work for NOAA, and we did Wi-Fi services for the St. Pete Grand Prix. Technology. This was initially deployed with Motorola WiMAX, and we're supposed to be able to provide, of course, bandwidth to the homes, and also it's supposed to support VoIP services. Not only did we deploy the WiMAX, we have also deployed Motorola's military spec Wing 5 gear, and we also deployed wireless gear by Ubiquiti. As of today, if you had VoIP services with us, we ran into some problems. The company that we utilize for those services has been replaced, and we now are pretty much, we are our own VoIP provider. And that implementation, we've been on it for about a month, and the public will begin enjoying that as of today. I would like to come back, or Rapid Systems come back in a month or so and talk to you about the new VoIP platform. Deployment. We have completed the deployment of the project well in advance of the 3-year requirement. When we first started working, we set an industry record with setting 15 monopoles within 15 days. All of the initial infrastructure was installed within 3 months. We initially deployed with 300 megs via wireless with a 25-mile microwave shot to Riverview. And then there was a backup shot coming out of Site 14, which is out towards where Mr. Samuels lives, if you guys know where he's at. And like I said before, that we initially deployed with the WiMAX gear. This is our original design. You can just kind of follow the red lines. I know everybody's having a hard time seeing the PowerPoint. This is the network in Hardy County as it stands today, and you'll see later on some other things that our network does. We've added 8 total WiMAX sectors to the Wauchula Water Tower. We've added the ubiquity infrastructure to all the monopoles. We have added 2 more poles to the original design. And we've incorporated 3 rings of redundancy rather than 2. We also added, about a year into the project, we added the alley in Ona. And to put that into perspective, or to try to relate that to something, that would be the super highway of fiber, really and truly, not just for Florida, but that's running throughout the country. So each side we've added an additional ring with the ubiquity gear. We have a total of actually 19 sites. And then the Wauchula Water Tower, we consider that a mega site. And there are a total of 16 access points on that site today. This is the bandwidth consumption as of January of 2012. And if we looked at that today, we would probably be sitting up around 400 megs of pretty steady capacity. We have a total of 161 access points. Original design was for 68. We have a total of 21 licensed backhauls, and the original design there was 19. Our rates, the agreement, it specifies a schedule that we're supposed to adhere to in the agreement. And not only did we adhere to that, we also, for our anchor institutions and our businesses, rather than the $159, $199, and $289 that you see here, basically those 3 packages, you add $20 to each one of the residential packages. And of course, we also have the custom packages. We were charged with job creation, originally to create 5 positions and ultimately up to 10. There are 15 total employees that are allocated to the project. What I have up here is not only the job creation, but all of our 10 full-time employees are from Hardee County. And then we have 2 part-time employees that are also from Hardee County. And then, of course, there are 3 support positions out of the Tampa market. So again, you'll see our charge for what we're supposed to do at this point. The first 2 I've already covered in the PowerPoint, and now to the third. Again, the grant was for 3 years. We were charged with doing a total of 2,500 installations. Hardee County's investment has been, our records had $1,994,000, 813.04 cents. Rapid Systems, total investment, we went over budget. We have spent a total of $3,516,868.55. Total number of installations is missing from the slide, but it's 2,542. What's not counted in that is the Wi-Fi that we provide to some of the RV parks. There's a total number of residents that is available to in one park at about 400, and in another park it's about 350. So we're not counting that like that. And then also, any time that we have a customer and they move and we do that reinstallation, we do not charge for that reinstallation either. So that's not counted in this figure either. So at this point, we'd like some guidance from the board. I expect that you want to direct us to do a reconciliation with staff or whomever, or however you want these numbers firmed up.
You know,
Yes, sir.
were you asking a question?
I was asking a question, but I have some more to cover.
Okay. Duly noted. We'll address it, but I
Go ahead and finish and then?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, the other thing that we were asked to talk about today is proposal to provide bandwidth to Tech River. I'm actually going to go to the third slide, I think. And I'm hoping that this will be a little bit easier to follow. But the initial shot will come from the Wauchula Water Tower to the Tech Park. Then we would make a secondary shot coming out of Site 15. So that would build the redundancy. And then ultimately that creates a ring. And I'll go back up to the other slides. That's just a Visio depiction of the ring. But coming out two ways, and then ultimately that can either go into the ILA in Ona or backhaul wirelessly back to Riverview and then to the Tampa Data Center. And this diagram just depicts of the three tenants that we're aware of, basically how those would be treated, and it goes into the Occam switch. Each entity has its own separate pipe. So this is some of the other redundancy that or network coverage that we have. You'll see we come out of Hardy County at Site 6, which is fairly close to Mr. Durrance, and then we actually connect to Myakka wirelessly.
You can get to me, you can get anywhere.
We come out of Site 2 into DeSoto County. We come out from Site 5 and Site 11 and go into Highlands County. And then, of course, we come out of Site 14 and go into Hillsborough County. We have last mile services that we're offering for Myakka. DeSoto off from 5 sites, Highlands off from 5 sites. And there's just some rough pricing for the Board Protect River. So I would need direction on those two things, whether to move forward with the quoting for the Broadband for Tech River and what exactly we want to do as far as a reconciliation for the closeout.
No.
Any questions?
Was it time for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Turn the lights back on.
You'll have a nice Christmas ambiance up there.
Bill, he asked for questions, and I'd just like to make a comment or two. Doug, I'm not an expert on any of this by any means, but I have had a lot of comments from different people in the county about the quality of service and the quality of the product. There's a lot of people that I hadn't been very happy with it. And I know it's a growing type problem, and everything else, but when do you... Excuse me. I'm just questioning the quality of service and the quality of the product. That there's been a lot of complaints from different individuals, and I know part of it is the growing and expanding and all that type of deal, but when do you feel like everything should be in great shape for everybody, and the level of service and quality of the product should be at its best?
Well, if some of this is related to the VoIP, and I think it probably is, because I think I probably know who you're here from. If you give us about a month, you will see something that's offered here that is for sure not offered anywhere in any other rural county in the United States. This network is the only network of its kind anywhere in the United States. This network is the largest deployment of the Motorola WiMAX gear. We are the only deployment of the Wing 5 gear. That's another area I'll touch on. There's been some, there's some things that Motorola's engineers thought that they would do that it didn't do when it was deployed, and we've had to work through it with them. But quite honestly, you know, we felt like Boyd rolled out and went very good for 6 months, and that company was bought up by another company, and I'd never seen a company turn around to the bad as quickly as, in my opinion, that company did.
Well, you know, all indications are, you know, like Tech River and other tech companies that are looking at us and everything, is the importance of this, you know. So it's very key to us that we do have the quality of product that brings these other people in.
Mike, I've had it for 2 years and I've only had one instance of a problem with it. That's called my dog chew the cable. I had nothing wrong with the system at all.
Now, was it your dog or the boss's dog?
It was probably the boss's dog.
Yeah, I figured that's who it was. But I'm just trying to bring out the point, Doug, that is very key to our, you know, future in this county and all, and we definitely would make sure we get the best service we can.
And I want to say this, just to follow up. There are a lot of other projects like this or similar to this that were or are being attempted throughout the state of Florida. Orlando's failed royally. The NFPA, I mean, there's articles even as of yesterday. They've spent nearly $30 million. They have 11 customers installed. They have no ISP. Yeah, I mean, we have issues and we work through those daily. And I think what you can say is if something's wrong, we'll get it fixed. Boyd was wrong, and give us a month, and I think you'll really see something.
Mike, I will tell you that the comments that I've had, and of course I probably took a different approach than most, but they have continually upgraded this system. And it started really as a way to provide broadband to areas of the county that would never in our lifetimes have an opportunity to have any broadband. These other rural counties in the state that are still on dial-up, you want to talk to some frustrated, mad people, talk to someone that takes 15 or 20 minutes to download a simple email that we take for granted today in Hardin County, and you'll find out what bad service or no service really is. Where I have probably criticized and chastised Rapid Systems the most is that when they have these outages, there's no pre-notice that the system's going to go down, there'll be a redesign, but most of it has been related to their continual insistence and willingness to spend money above and beyond their original commitment here. We weren't even supposed to have but a 300 megabyte, which is a measurement of the size of the service into this community. And today, we're probably averaging over 300 megs, or at least exceeds it.
400 megs.
400 megs. So, and it's expensive to do that sort of thing. And while I have understood the various outages over the 2 or 3 years that we've been dealing with them, we did a bad job, again, conveying that to the public to have them understand why. For the most part, though, we really do have a service here that today is unique. I don't know that it'll be unique forever. I hope it catches on and goes all over the face of the earth, because broadband is the way we're going to communicate.
And that's basically, Doug, what I've heard a lot of people say. You know, and I would say that take that as notice that maybe we need to do a little bit of more selling and letting people be aware of this and get out there that this is going to be in another month. This should be state of the art, and put another big push on. You know.
I think Mike's comments are very appropriate for the future. If we're trying to do something unique here, this is going to be the horse that takes us there.
Well, it is, you know, they're incentivized basically by the fact that they have enough revenue to operate this system. And to me, to take a community that had 0 customers, and you probably started really signing people up just 2 years ago, would you guess? And to go from no customers to 2,500 customers in 2 years in a rural community kind of stands on its own merit. But I do agree with the, the problems related, they had an outage Sunday. Of course, one of the problems is when they have an outage, the only way they would really be able to quickly and effectively communicate to people is by email, and you can't do it if you're out. And we're learning with these things, and but again, points well made.
Is that 20?
It was one site. I mean, you won't see, I mean, in order for the county to experience an outage, I mean, this is what has to happen. Somebody has to cut the fiber out of Ona, and somebody has to blow up the backhaul to Riverview. Ona can go down, and the network will still backhaul wirelessly to Riverview. Riverview, well, it's not primary anyway, but so both of those have to go down. And then, of course, with other projects that we were involved in, ultimately, we would have, and still intend on doing that on our own, we would have tied into another ILA to the south in Okeechobee. So that would have brought in tertiary redundancy. And actually, we do have tertiary now. That we can also back home from Site 12. So,
This is all great information, but we are dealing with some time restraints here this morning because there's other things coming in behind us. So thank you. Are there any other questions or anything else we need to
Let me
respond?
address the 2
We need
points.
to move forward.
What I would like is, I have talked with our auditor on setting up some type of audit protocols. This is really one of the first complete closeouts of a project like this that we have had to go through. And I have asked Clifton Larson Allen to take as an aspect of their auditing to consider auditing or helping us develop a template to do an audit closeout. And I would like your permission to continue with that process, or a suggestion on an alternative way to accomplish it.
This sounds like the logical way to go with that. What's the pleasure of this board?
Make a motion to continue with Clifton Larson Allen. I think they can guide you best with any.
On project audits, so.
Yes.
Second. All right, we have a motion and seconded to continue with Clifton Larson Allen on this process with the audit and the closeout. Any further questions on that?
Sure.
I would request that the motion, and Larson Allen requested this, that the motion include to say that we engage in, contractual obligation with them that does not impair their independence. That needs to be stated.
No, that would be important.
I think that's what I meant to say.
Please note that.
Is that what your second was?
You amend your
I
motion.
amended to include that, yes.
Okay.
Second.
And I would like to amend that or other auditing entity so that I'm not stopped, because if they run into a glitch and can't do it, I'll find someone else to do it.
Did the motion just state for audit purposes? Close out. They also suggested that we say contracts on a case-by-case basis so that it doesn't impair us to just do, a broadband closeout. So that way the motion would read
Why don't
as
you
on a
restate
contract.
your motion?
I wouldn't have a clue how to restate it.
Well, then let's make it more generic and authorize us to contract with auditing services to do various project closeouts
Yeah, we'll put us in conflict.
as legal and appropriate. Is that better? I just need authorization to move forward on this stuff.
Do it.
That is my amended motion, what Bill just said. I wrote that down.
Second, Stan? Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, motion carries.
And then, as to the Tech River discussion, I've been looking for the most efficient and effective way to do several things. Rapid is intending on relocating a large part of their Tampa operation, and you didn't go into that, and if you want to address that in a minute, you can, into the Tech River building. We have not consummated the lease situation, but there's, I'm going to try to explain to you the detail of the problems, and then it'll help you in coming up with the right decision. They currently have approximately 600 megabits of bandwidth coming into their warehouse on US 17. Is that correct? In order to get that 600 megabits, which is a fairly large amount of bandwidth, to the Preco building, we would have to go through the special exception process to put a pole at their building and a pole at the Preco building and just make a shot from their building to the Preco building. And I don't really believe that that's necessarily the responsibility of the IDA, but it's a problem that needs to be dealt with. We can, for about $30,000, put a separate set of radios on the Wauchula Water Tower and make a direct shot to the Tech River Park. That $30,000 will provide a capability of providing a gigabit, which is 1,000 megabits of bandwidth, which is really a lot by today's standards, directly to that facility. And then I would like to go through the special exception process to put a concrete pole there and have redundancy so that we have two separate independent microwave signals coming in case there's an outage on two different connections to the grid. I mean, it would give us a very reliable ability to have a large amount of bandwidth at that building. This bandwidth is pretty well what you would understand as middle mile, and then the last mile deployment would be really internal to the building relative to the diagram that Doug showed you. The alternative is to find the closest fiber, and everything that we've looked at for fiber or to bring fiber from the ILA POP is close to $500,000. And I do not see where it is rational, prudent, logical, or whatever with the technology we have today to do something like that. So I am asking you today, as a part of the Tech River project, to allow us to RFP through Half Acre. I'll send them out and have them check with Comcast and CenturyLink and whoever else is in the marketplace on the various alternatives to most efficiently and effectively give us the capability of having at least a gig into that building. And we will RFP it, and that's the way we'll proceed.
Will this also give us the ability to go outside that building in that area? How would we do that?
It would, in that the second part of that would be the installation of another monopole at that building so that we can bring the redundant microwave signal in.
What about the Preco building, the new Preco building?
We have had some discussions relative to using their monopole, but there's some conflicts in trying to do that, and I think it would be quicker just to put another monopole on that site. But in order to do that, we have to get, the school board has one, Preco has one, but we have to get a special exception. I think it's anything over 35 feet in Hardy County. And it's kind of funny because there's transmission line poles all around the building that are probably 80 or 90 feet. We still have to have a special exception to put the pole up. And I just would like permission to RFP this and get it on track.
Is an RFP required?
I think it's prudent. I would like to make sure and certain that we are doing this the best way.
When you say part of the Tech River project, that we want to RFP this as part of the Tech River project, are you talking about the Preco monies, or are you talking about getting an RFP to come back and look at how much it's going to cost?
I want to solicit requests for proposals to provide up to a gig of broadband service, or to have the capability of a gig. We don't want to have more than we need to consume, with redundancy, so that there is at least two sources coming into that building.
Is a gig sufficient in the foreseeable future for that building?
I mean, to put it in perspective, originally this entire network was designed at 300 megs.
That was the old dispensation.
You're more than 3 times of that in one location.
Chairman,
Yes.
why wouldn't Tech River be responsible for paying to have this come in?
Well, we also have Rapid System that's involved too. I mean, if we want them to move their corporate office here from Tampa, you know, there is a reason there to follow up on this.
I'm not under the impression this is something that they're asking for. You know, we wanted to take on the project of having a technology park. So my thought is, my thought in answering your question is that, you know, we want the technology park there and we're responsible for the Preco building, then these folks are all tenants and of course Continuum has a responsibility to help us develop that, but it's our technology park.
Well, then couldn't you spread that cost out over the lease, add a little to the lease?
Well, they could
Take care of that?
pay for, they're only gonna need probably 50 megs.
What are we gonna do with the rest of it then?
Well, it's a technology center, and we need to have the capability of that bandwidth to do recruitment.
Well, there's only room for so many tech companies in there.
Yeah, but there may be additional buildings built in the future.
Not on that property, it's not big enough.
Well, there's other sites around, that's why we're trying to get a center there, we need to have plenty of ground.
And this board did allocate last year $500,000 for bringing fiber there, and this is a much better alternative, and it is much cheaper.
Well, I agree with that, but, I just thought maybe they should put a little money in the pot. That's just my,
Well, their monthly service is nothing more than just buying, they can either get service from Comcast or CenturyLink or Rapid Systems. But there is no fiber available to that
I
particular
realize
site.
there's no fiber, and I think this is the cheapest way to do it, but, $3.5 million, I thought maybe they could put a little in the pot.
Well, they could, but all they need is 50 megs. For their own usage right now, it could grow.
All right.
Right.
We heard the deal as far as the fiber and other businesses are going to be able to get on it and all that kind of stuff. Now, going to the way we're looking at going with this, will the other businesses need to go that way? Put up a pole and get a direct shot, or will they just be able to take the services available, be enough for most companies?
Well, this design is fiber forward in that every one of our attachment points with the Rapid Systems program can go with a radio or with fiber. It just appears that in most applications, I know when the Keyplex building was hooked up, their IT guy came over from Orlando and he was shocked. He said, I can't get anything like this in Orlando. And they have constantly complimented that type
So
of
what you're
connection.
telling me to speed it up is the other businesses should have access without needing this?
That they should, that is correct.
That's my only question, okay.
Because if you put 1 gigabyte there, other businesses that go in that area can feed off of that.
Well, and as an aspect of that building, if we can cultivate a market for rack space, where people would be basing their servers in a mini data center situation, all of that becomes appropriate to make Tech River cash flow.
Well, would Peace River be eligible to use this? Come off there and use this?
They have been in conversations. Unfortunately, they had initiated a contract with Comcast around the time we started this discussion. And, Paul Roberts, who, I don't know where Paul is today, but he has been a great proponent and fan of Rapid Systems, but he also handles IT for for Preco. And it was just a timing issue with them.
All right, we are still in time restraints here, so has that answered everybody's question, sort of, kind of?
Just need approval to solicit RFP.
We need approval or motion to solicit an RFP for this type
I
of.
make a motion to solicit the RFPs for broadband, or the
For the Tech River.
Tech River.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, let's move forward quickly.
Sir?
I'm gonna do mine first.
Sarah, you have your thumbs up?
Yeah, Chrissy's gonna put it in.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I'm bringing before today the Mosaic funds, and just to give you an update on how those funds have been allocated out, and also to talk about some amendments that we would like to do to some of those categories. And Christy's pulling it up on the screen, and then you should also have it in your packets. So just to go back over this whole fund, I want to just start from the beginning. And you can see at the top that our first of all, does everybody have it? I see it.
We can't see it.
Can't see.
I can't even read it.
Let's
Let's just go back
bring
to
the lights up.
Yeah.
just a little.
Okay.
I'll make it better.
Our first allocation that we received from Mosaic came in on November of 2010 for $1 million. Our second was received in March of 2012 for $3.5 million. And the third we have received so far came in May 2012 for $4.5 million, for a total of $9 million. We held our first budget presentation and allocation presentation shortly after the 2012 allocation came in for March. You'll see this first column, the blue column that says budgeted amount for 11-12. We set aside an initial $200,000 for administrative. National Solar was awarded $250,000. Pacer, a $60,000 allocation for job creation. The Chamber Marketing Program was allocated $74,000. We did put aside $500,000, as Bill just talked about, for broadband for continuing services. Hardy Lakes was awarded a grant out of the Mosaic funds for $250,000. Easy Products was awarded a grant for a little over $26,000, and then the Blue Water grant for $2.6 million. $150,000 was put into tourism development to complete the report through USF. And then Preco, there was $700,000 allotted for the purchase of the building and then the subsequent renovations that would take place to get that building up to speed for what is now Tech River. Continuum was then awarded at the last meeting $3 million. And then the last category is Bionitrogen, and we will talk about theirs in just a moment. So if you go over to the next column, that's our amendments that we would like to bring before the board today. And I'm just going to go quickly through these. So if you will go down to Blue Water, you will notice that the original allotment was for $2,657,813. The amended amount actually takes into consideration that when they did their contract and they had their draw schedule, which was the very last exhibit in their contract, when they submitted for reimbursement in April, I believe, out of that draw schedule, they requested a different amount. They actually shortchanged themselves a little bit. So it was just a math error. When they made their April draw request, it was for a little bit under what the actual draw schedule in the contract said. So in order to follow, correctly and make sure that our books match, I needed to change the budgeted amount to look like what their draw schedule actually was. We have since gone back, and you actually approved in the last meeting to go ahead and issue Continuum that amount that LifeSync had shortchanged themselves in that April 2012 draw. So if you kind of refresh your memory and go back to your last board meeting when we approved the upfront $300,000 for Continuum, we also approved, and I can't remember the exact amount, it was around, for the draw for LifeSync's draw. The second check was about $85,000, I believe. And so that included, am I making sense? I mean, who is confused by this, first of all? Does everybody understand what I'm trying to say? Okay. I just want to make sure that. So that's why the amended amount looks like that. We took tourism development down to $100,000. So it went from 150 to 100,000. The other categories, you will see now that Continuum's draw actually, so this amended amount of the $3,099,961, that includes the 2 draws from LifeSync that were shortchanged. We've added those back into Continuum's overall allocation of monies. And they have actually already received those funds. They received those at the last board meeting. You voted on that. And then bionitrogen, we would like to add in a $1 million allotment for bionitrogen to set aside for what was discussed at the board meeting last month for the Railsburg. So if you look over at the next column, that is what was distributed in 11-12. And you'll notice that there's only a few categories that have actually collected on either their grant awards or what we have allocated out as far as IDA projects go. And those were the Chamber of Marketing. They collected $15,954.60 of their grant award. Easy Products collected all of theirs. Blue Water has received all of their funding. Tourism Development, we have spent to date $92,552 on the USF study. And then Preco, $400,000 was spent up to the date that this report was done on the purchase of the building. And so what we have left to spend would be your last column. And you'll see that each of those categories that have not collected, we do expect them to collect in 2012-13. So our administrative funds, we have not taken any of that over into our IDA bank accounts as of yet. So we still have all of that administrative money that we can pull. And then National Solar, Pacer, Chamber of Marketing still has some funds that they can pull for their marketing grant. Broadband, we believe that we will be spending the $250,000 this year or whatever the RFP comes out to. And then the last ones would be Preco for the renovations, and Continuum should collect their money. And then we do need a vote, I guess, to allocate the $1 million for bionitrogen. And that's the only real financial change to the Mosaic money that we would need a vote on.
Any questions for Sarah or the board?
Just for clarification, we're just voting on setting it aside in the budget because we voted on the $1 million in the last meeting. So
Yes,
we're
I have to-
technically just,
You need to amend.
we're just
Right,
voting
yeah.
on amending the budget.
Correct.
Because it's already been decisioned on the $1 million.
Yes.
Everybody understand that? The motion's to amend, the set aside has already been voted on.
To amend as per this schedule.
Yeah, to amend as per the schedule that you're looking at.
So I'll make the motion to amend the budget.
Vanessa made the motion.
Second.
Any further questions, discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Go ahead and do the meeting. Sarah, you go ahead and do the meeting dates.
Okay. You'll also see in your packets that we have included the meeting dates for starting in January 2013, and they'll run through December 2013. We will advertise those meetings in the newspaper in December. So we just need a motion to approve the meeting dates for 2013 for IDA EDC.
I make a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion is made and seconded on approving the meeting dates for continuing with 2012, 2013. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Casey.
Mr. Bond's here today as per our contract. He will be giving you guys a report as far as the deliverables that were laid forth in the contract and just what they've accomplished over the last month. I just do want you guys to know that we're working on gathering additional supporting documentation for the most recent draw request and some just additional things that we need, and we will present those to the board. We may have to call a special meeting over the next month to do so, but just wanted to make you guys aware that we are working on that. But I'll invite Mr. Bond up here to make his monthly report.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for your time. I have a few slides that go ahead and outline the categories based upon our agreement that outline the various aspects or pillars, if you will, of what is going on. First, we talk about human resources and what we're doing in terms of the human element. We have to date, so sorry. I apologize. Pull up the one that says in the IDA folder. That's last week's or last month's. All right, take two. This outlines human resources at a glance. To date, we received additionally 46 new resumes. We conducted another 10 interviews. We have since started a project where we have allowed some people to sort of try before they buy, in the sense that if they know of a specific area that they think that they would like to perform, is that we have agreed that we would contract out with them on an hourly basis and that they would see if it was a good fit for them as well. We have actually had a move, and I'll talk about this later. One person actually moved from QA to development, and we've had a 90% retention. One of the individuals that was actually from Sebring left the program and went back to Apple. I believe that it was probably more of anything, it was a personality fit, and she didn't like the drive, I suspect. I'm sure there are other rumors, but nothing sensational. One of the fun facts is that remember that our inaugural class is the foundation. So we are spending an enormous amount of time with this group. One of the new hires is working on a sketch project himself because he thinks he might move to another department as well. We have made the foundation flexible in that we are looking for good fits. If you remember that when we brought them aboard, these were the various jobs in the categories, and they all had an overall technology interest, and all of them came through Workforce, and we defined the jobs as best we knew them at the time, but have found some skill sets. One person that went to QA, by the way, decided he really wanted to be a software developer, and so we allowed him to make that change after the 3-week training course, which put everybody on par. And so basically the slide just outlines where everybody is in the seats by departments. So one of the other things is community involvement. I knew that one of the things at the most highest level is that we're putting a technology company down here. We're bringing the focus, and we are trying to catalyze other companies that have technology as a service or product. And so as a result, we're out there sort of beating the drums. And so this is just one of the timelines of things that we've done in the last 30 days. And if you'll note that there's some things that basically every couple of days we are doing something in town, and something to a meaningful fact that we are not a military secret. One of the things that's sort of exciting is the last bullet, is that we bugged USF Polytechnic so much about wanting their space. Apparently they moved out in the middle of the night. So about 24 hours later, we moved in. So no dust has settled on that. So you now know that the new temporary space is at 116 Main Street. And so our signs are up there, our people are working in there, and we are grateful to Mr. Lambert loaning us the clubhouse, but we will stop disturbing the peaceful golfers with our technology trade show inside there. And we will now be more where everybody feels like they're out in the open and be able to answer questions and people come and see what's going on. I know it's a shock. We did not win the parade, but we gave it our best shot. But it was a great opportunity knowing about it a few weeks after starting. And it was really neat to see that Tech River and all of the constituents that make that up, from Rapid Systems to Rapid Tech to Continuum Labs, their families, everybody joined in and really helped with the float. And I would call that a success. Tech River University at a glance. Really, the Tech River, remember that it is a place to not just catalyze companies, but it's also a place to offer within that ecosystem an environment where people can sit there and change. So part of that, the space that's been allocated is a formal place for training, and we have spent a lot of time and resources in developing training programs. And so we are certainly eating our own dog food, as they call it in the software industry, and we've used our own employees at Continuum to sit there and go through the program. And so these are just some of the statistics, is that we now have, after the 3-week course that brought everybody on par, we have 2 developers in intensive training on Android and iOS. We have 2 weeks of telepresence demo, where we have sat there and tried to see what it's like to have high definition connectivity between all of our offices and how that's helped with being able to see people face to face. We've had 100% pass rates in QA and design, as well as our agile exams. So nobody's failing. Matter of fact, everybody's achieving wonderfully. And so everything that we would have expected in any other town across America, had you just given the right resources, the right encouragement, and the opportunity, they would excel. Wauchula has by no means been an exception to that. And and in my 12 years of doing this, it has been yet another repeatable case where people are encouraged, given the opportunity, and given something to strive for, they will change in a way that they want to make the change. So it has been fun to watch this happen. One of the things that I will also just note as a point that I would make back to the IDA is just something to keep in the back of your head. When PFM came and they spoke about how they had engineers in Germany that make the equipment, the robotics, that make the machines that they ultimately sell, that those engineers from Germany would come to Wauchula to train. And so if we have the infrastructure in place, we think we can save PFM a lot of money in that their instructors can remain in Germany, and through telepresence, which is high definition audio and video, just like Blu-ray, that level of high definition, be able to beam that right into the classroom. Then the people that work there can sit there and go to the Tech River classroom, get the training from Germany, and then save PFM all the costs that would normally be associated with training, which is travel, entertainment, meals, etc. And not to mention international flights are far more significant than they would be domestically. So hopefully that is a change. That is part of the big program, is that you give people an opportunity, just like you're talking about broadband. You give companies the opportunity to succeed here and have a cost competitive advantage, they'll use it. And so when we spoke about that opportunity, the representatives from that company were very interested. So the park at a glance, what's going on there? So progress is being made every day. We substantiate it on dashes. You can download our app, and it's actually one of the dashes that you can follow. You can see pictures of what's going on inside the building. We make notes. We actually have discussions about where we're putting wiring and various things. And so it's been neat to use our own technology as a project management tool, to which even Half Acre has participated in. And it's been very productive utilizing technology to do that. Permits were officially obtained on the 9th. They gave us some temporary ones so that the construction wouldn't stop. And so now everything has been approved. And so some of the more serious walls that needed to be moved that were load bearing have now are in the process of being moved. We also have one anchor tenant space left, and I'll show you a floor plan on that. But look at this, at what we did, and a fun fact. We actually took down 17 walls and 8 doors. That excites me, because that's what really people need. They need to see and feel open spaces and to share the energy about what they're doing. That drives excitement. And so when you walked in there, and what they had done was really old style, what everybody sort of gets in a cube. And so it was so liberating to see over the last couple of months, just walls after walls after walls being torn down and doors being stacked up in another room, because we really have opened it up. And I would say that I think that the building personally is coming out to be probably one of the best technology spaces I've ever been a part of. So, pat on the back for everybody who's been involved in that. Here is a floor plan that shows what we have done. And so you'll notice that, just for your convenience, Rapid Systems, which is over here on the left-hand side of the graph, they're taking up the second floor. This gives them elevator access to their own space, which is what you want in a multi-tenant space. You want to have the ability to know that you control the different properties, whether it's intellectual or physical, and also for safety. And so they have the second floor, and that meets their needs. Again, I think it met the criteria of being a catalyst for technology companies. Secondly, the other blue areas on the first floor are spaces yet to be rented out, but we have configured them in such a way. With the exception of this, Rapid Tech has come in now into the center part of that, and we've added some additional interior walls for them, and they have in kind done what? They have gone and said that we will configure the wiring and tone it out. And so it's been very much sort of a barn, sort of building experience in the community, where everybody has sort of put in their own amount of efforts to see that this building comes alive. So the green space is where Tech River University actually is. That will hold up to, I believe, 18 to 20 students based upon the floor plan. The 2 pink areas are the community space. That's the conference room, which, if you approve it at some point in time, would have telepresence, which means that any of you can sit there and have high definition meetings anywhere across the room with the best that technology has to offer. One of the reasons that you want a bigger pipe into this building is to have unfettered access anywhere across the world, like you're running out a meeting out of a Fortune 500 company. And then that being a community space, any tenant that's there can sit there and present themselves as a state-of-the-art technology-based company, because they're using infrastructure that other people now respect the fact that they're a real company intending to do real business. The pink area that's on the side of US 17 is a cafeteria, one wall. We had to have that because it's a load-bearing wall. It used to be an exterior building. One of the phases, it was at one point an exterior wall. But we've removed as much as we can, and so it's a nice cafeteria space. It's got 5 microwaves. It's nice and open, so people can meet there. We're going to put an access point, so anybody that wants to come into the building and sit there and bring their lunch and nuke it and just hang out with other technology folks also have internet access. And then the other blue spaces are space that we expect future tenants. And then the purple area can either be turned into another tenant space, or that's where we expect to have some sort of additional community environment for the building. So product development at a glance. What are we doing while we're doing the mentoring, the training, and all the other things? Well, we've actually cured 127 bugs. We have created 34 new features based on feedback. We've completed 22 designs. We've made 5 code pushes, which is the equivalent of publishing a book. We've actually gone and taken it and pushed it at the outside world. And we've had 2 mobile submissions. One of the neat things now is that Dashes and the Life Dash platform, in part built by the Continuum people, including this class, is now offered on Android. And so one of the interesting things is that 2/3 of our Android development now take place where? Hardy County. So we are doing what we said we would do, and not in months, but we've done it in weeks, and it is truly exciting. So some of the fun facts is that being in Google Play means now is that Google has 5 times as many iPhones or smartphones as the iOS. iOS still outsells because it's a better device to use for most people. But the fun thing is that we cover 95% of the mobile space in our technology. So what are we doing in terms of professional services? We're now continuing to work on a product up in Minnesota. The people up there are cold but happy. We have Forge Rock and Hudson, which continue to add classes that we teach on identity. And we are building out something, I'm going to talk about this in a second, but we also have a prior division of Cisco who has asked us to do some development for them starting in January. And so that's kind of exciting. one of these neat facts is that our primary product is certainly CareSync. When you look at the irony, and though it was not by design, if you look at our inaugural class, 50% of them have healthcare experience. Whether they're a nurse, they worked at Finder for some period of time, like multiple years or something. These people natively have healthcare experience. Our main product being CareSync, and what we want to do with it is obviously healthcare focused. And so it's sort of neat that it's sort of almost somewhat destined that we really are using natural resources as those that are actual healthcare experience. And so one of the things that we're starting, and out of respect for privacy and what we're doing from an intellectual standpoint, is that we have this project that we're developing called Concierge Services. Now, to those that are, there is no other company that we can find that has a family patient health record with a concierge side. We have since, next slide, Bob. We have since been working on this with parties that make tools that actually measure the pills in a bottle for compliance. If you look at the fact that patients, when they leave the hospital or the doctor's office, are over 50% likely to not follow the advice of the physician, whether that's to not fill the prescription, get it filled but never pick it up and never take it, never get the things to the doctor or whatever on discharge summary said. We feel that with a concierge service and that we're able to sit there and unredact and enforce these compliance and do these things that really healthcare is lacking so badly, and do that with a labor-intensive force that puts the data in the software, creates sticky software. So we've begun to work and test this as you would in a good agile model. And so we've been doing official strategic competition analyses. Most of that has been done by the inaugural class, at least half. We have created a new education partnership with USF Usability Lab. We actually went out and already have done one class with 3 of our people at the USF Lakeland class in usability and design. And we are already working with the villages in USF to now do this strategic pilot in pill compliance. And so there's a lot of things that are going on. And so while we're doing these other things, we continue to keep momentum in our sales and marketing. And then I will leave you with this, because I think it is important. One of the things that you have all done, and you have taken a lot of faith in, is the fact, how do you get technology? How does a rural environment get a fair handshake, if you will, when it comes to offering up jobs that just bigger cities with research institutions and companies already there? How do you do that? Well, without mentioning names, there are some legislators in the state of Florida who have been working with us, who were approached about a year ago in an idea that the governor said he wanted to create these STEM environments, which are science, technology, engineering, and mathematics eco centers, if you will. That those were anchored at the primary research institutions in the state of Florida. That design was to focus on Miami, Gainesville, Tallahassee, Tampa, Orlando. Well, based upon the experience that we've had, we said, look, we don't want to be a brain drain. We, meaning anybody that's trying to think of something to use these big university settings for, against rural committees, and so, or against rural counties. So these legislators, based upon the Tech River model, literally based upon that, have introduced additional language into this bill to say that if you're going to fund one of these big cities, that they have to adopt a rural county and do the same, so that you don't have the brain drain. And they have used the Tech River model, and all that we have done over the last several months in trying to say, how do you do that? How does it make sense? And how do people get to have state-of-the-art jobs while they still get to live in a small community which they grew up in? So we are making progress. I'm sorry that maybe took like 5 minutes more than I wanted to, but I did want to get all of that out to you, and there was a lot that's happened.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from the board?
Who adopted Hardy County?
I'm sorry?
Who adopted Hardy County?
Hillsborough.
Don't say Miami.
No, Hillsborough.
Okay.
USF.
USF.
Thank you very much. All right. We're cutting it close. Did we discuss this USF Biogeek? No.
Well,
We're going there? That wasn't part of this?
No.
Oh, okay.
we have no direct business to do with that.
Oh, okay.
No discussion.
So we're going to go past that?
Next month.
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll have it
next month.
It's fine. Command Center, if you'll turn over, you have an invoice. I would like your permission to amend the I would like to include this telephone equipment in the construction of the command center. Through the process, it's become obvious that a prudent place for an alternate location for the 911 backup is in this building. The equipment is small, but the telephone infrastructure will cost $13,093.41. It appears to me to be a prudent thing on our behalf. The sheriff believes this is a good idea, and I frankly concur that it's a great idea. I've talked with Lex about it, and there would be multiple ways to do it, but if we make it a part of the infrastructure of this building, that's probably where it needs to be, and I'd just like permission to include this in the contract.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to include this telephone equipment in the initial contract with the command center. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
You've had your discussion of the PFM agreement. All I need is a formal vote to acknowledge that agreement and allow Ken Evers and I to finalize the agreement with PFM and Chairman to sign it.
Before we go, are there any questions from anybody in the panel or in the audience?
On that subject? or-
Yes, PFM. Thought you told me you had questions on that.
Yeah, yeah. Having a little problem getting up here. Okay. In the agreement, I seen you put like $10,300 something a month for the lease. Have you figured where you will break even or come out in the clear by giving them the 30 months and then charging the $10,300 a month?
I never did that, never thought about it.
Well, that was something I was suggesting to do math on these projects.
Well, remember, our objective is to create these jobs in this community and diversify its economy. And that's a very subjective part of evaluating how much it's worth to us, but even mathematically, it's fine. We won't go in the hole.
Part of your job is to do it efficiently as possible too.
That's in the eye of the hole.
Okay. The insurance, now I'm asking, more or less asking a question here, and maybe would make a statement too. But when they furnish you the insurance, do you have language in there that would include you being, I know you got being named, but they would produce these documents to you in time, as they renew or whatever? Do you have any language that they would be breaking the lease if they did not furnish the liabilities and all the insurances that they needed to furnish?
I don't think there's specific language, but there are legal tools to deal with that issue if it happens.
Okay. I think that's a very important thing in any lease agreement.
Sir?
Okay, and you were talking about tangible taxes. That's another thing that you should be redeeming over some sort of a time period. The same as, in other words, if you give them $1 million in tax breaks, then you should be redeeming that over so many years later on.
We don't do that. That's the Board of County Commissioners that would do that.
Okay. One more question on that building. How did you arrive at the $1,650,000 price? Did you do a bids, do drawings, and get bids, and
We
get a
have-
form on?
No, these are construction cost estimates.
Okay. The only other thing I'll say while I'm up here in the last county commission, we were real pleased to see the chairman ask for public opinion before they made their votes. And if you guys are gonna run on similar rules, it'd be nice if you asked. We won't get up there every time, but if we got something to say, it'd be good to be able to say it at the point that you're working. So, thank you.
We have a motion on this?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve this lease as amended, as presented in front of us today. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next.
We have begun the intermediate to final processes of the operational audit. I can still tell you that we are at a point now where we will begin formalizing the audit comments. We met for about 6 hours with them last Friday. I did not hear anything that I felt like was particularly heinous. There certainly were no allegations or revelations of missing monies. There are some procedural issues that we have been fully expecting. They also audited pretty much the same period of the financial audits, which were prior to us making amends and adopting new accounting procedures, et cetera. So at this point, I've not seen revelations that were going to be problems to deal with. We have some documentation issues that are fairly typical of these audits, where we've provided documentation, but it's either not in the right format, or we didn't have it in the right file, or it wasn't in the right place, and we're continuing to learn how to do that. Doesn't mean that there wasn't documentation, it just means that it hasn't been provided in the right format. And it may be in some instances that we're lacking documentation, and if so, we will either prove it up or we'll have to accept the fact that we didn't do it. I don't know that that'll happen. But basically, they will come back with formal comments in 4 to 6 weeks. I will have to prepare responses to those comments, and that will take 4 to 6 weeks. I'm expecting, I will try to do it as expeditiously as possible, and then they will take another period of time. So I'm looking at somewhere for the operational audit, and then it really doesn't necessarily draw conclusions. They don't say you did this right or you did this wrong. They just say you had these findings, and they will monitor over the next 18 months, which is their usual process, and we will make adjustments or continue to argue. I will tell you that some of the things that we have been accused of being remiss at, they haven't figured out yet either, and they remain undecided. The component, non-component unit issue is probably the largest issue. It remains an issue because it does more or less provide an impediment to our selection of a permanent accounting situation. They are aware of that. I take offense to them pointing out the deficiencies of those problems, because we really can't move forward till they make their final determination. And they are taking into consideration the comments that we made last Friday, and we'll just have to see where that takes us. So I wanted you to be aware of that. I have rolled through my head all of the comments that were made, and I may be insensitive to some of these things, but I just didn't see anything that was going to be a revelation. I'm sure that there are those that if we forgot to trim a toenail would make it a heinous crime. But anyway, that's the process. That's where it's at, and we will continue to move forward through it. And as I can get you additional information, I will give it to you in our next board meetings as they come along.
Thank you. Next, the director's report. Wait, before, any questions about audit? I was there for 90% of the time, but was there any questions from any of the board members on what that? Yes, sir?
Was that recorded, that 6-hour meeting?
No.
It was not.
At their
It was not
request.
their request.
Okay.
Not ours.
And there were no notes at their request.
Okay,
So you'll have to take that up with the Florida legislature.
all right.
Okay.
They probably would have objected to me even telling you we met, Frank.
It was a preliminary meeting. That's what it was.
I'm gonna waive the director's report. You pretty well have a report on everything that's going on, so. I'll waive it.
All right. Financial report?
On page 1, you'll again see the circle numbers at the bottom, so we'll be able to tell what page you're on. Page 1 shows net income on the bottom figure of a loss of $344,000 for the year to date. The next page on page 2 shows a month loss of $564,000. It's not a loss in the sense that most businesses would think of a loss. It's the fact that we paid out more money in things that we didn't have the income off the top side, but it's not an operational loss. But it's if you add the minus 564 to what the previous month's profit was, you come up with a minus $344,000.
We're not writing bad checks, okay?
Every day. No, but no, we're not. There's money in the accounts, it's just that,
All right.
okay. The next
It's
page.
the reporting requirements with Gatsby, obviously.
It is, and once we can get this component unit, non-component unit resolved, just from the standpoint of being able to move forward with certainty on how we're gonna handle the accounting henceforth, these issues will be resolved.
I can tell you, I spent some time with a couple of people yesterday and the day before. No, not day before, yesterday. Who I didn't understand this. If this was presented to a banker, we'd have a little bit of trouble with it. But since it's Gatsby stuff, it's not FASB. We're comfortable. Rick and I are comfortable with FASB, but not with Gatsby. So it's a different learning process for us too.
Yeah, well, we know the government operates in the red. So I was just wondering, we're like the government,
Next page is circle 4. It shows the profit loss by class, meaning different operations we have going on. Do you have any questions on any of those? I'll get Sarah to answer it. Page 5, the $12,650 was a draw by Larson Allen, and the $11,324 under Blue Water was a draw for them too. Any of the large numbers, if you have any questions, we'll be glad to. Do you have any questions? You got this earlier, didn't you, in the package? So you
Yeah.
can review it. Any further questions, I'll be glad to get Sarah to answer them. If not, that's the report.
No other questions, I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion's made, a second, here a second.
Second.
Made, second, to approve the financial statements presented. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any other announcements from any of the board members?
I got some, I know we're late here, but I'd like to know how the Hardy Lakes thing is going. I'd like to know a little bit about, you think NutriPure is gonna do something next year? Or whatever that place is called out there? Where the 8 acres is?
I don't have anything to do with Hardy Lakes. That's directly under the BOCC.
I know, but we provided the money, and I'm just wondering if they're doing anything. Do you know? If you don't know, that's fine.
I think they're waiting on some DEP permits relative to water, but I don't. That is part, I don't.
Okay, I just curious.
And NutriPure is still moving along. I mean,
But you hadn't heard anything from them, they're gonna try to start by mid-13 or anything like that, and doing something like that? Just curious.
no.
Okay.
Mr. there was something on the last county commission meeting. There was a chart that showed those projects, when they were going and that kind of stuff.
Well, NutriPure wouldn't be there, but Hardy Lakes would be.
Hardy Lakes, yeah, that's the one.
Colin?
Now,
Commissioner Lambert, I'm sorry.
I talked to Lex about Hardy Lakes, and there is a schedule of events, and it's on schedule. Things are moving as planned. I think it's like March, they're supposed to be finished with the completion of the whole thing.
Oh, good.
We have made the disbursement to the DOCC though.
Any other questions from any member of the audience?
Don't forget the legislative delegation meeting.
Yeah, legislative delegation meeting
1:30.
at 1:30 here. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
You gonna
So
send me all
same
them
side,
notes?
motion adjourned. Thank you very much.
Huh?
That was really good for us.
If I write down something, if I write down,